Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mayday here. I've got two stories. One's about this cyber attack in California, and then I've got one about the SPR, which is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and what they're going to do to try to get the reserves built back up, and how they got them built back up from 83. Um, but before that, smash the like button, subscribe, help me out a little bit here. California city declares state of emergency after cyber attack on computer systems. So the city council for Susian City declared a state of emergency Saturday after a cyber attack forced the municipality to shut down its information technology network. The attack affected the communications operations of the fire and police department in the northern California city, including the routing of 911 calls. Susian City officials said in a statement that the attack posed no imminent threat to the public and that all public safety service remained active. The computer network was shut down to contain the threat and preserve evidence for a federal investigation. Susian City dispatchers are taking emergency police and fire calls to the Solana County Dispatcher Center. Online city services and internal operations remain temporarily unavailable as this Sunday morning, while cybersecurity experts investigated the incident and worked to restore the systems. Now, if you remember, Klaus Schwab was talking about cyber attacks and everything just like going on there. But everything that man said, that's what's going to be happening. Be eating the bugs and being happy. The attack, believed on the first of its kind in the city of 30,000, located 55 miles of San Francisco. The threat of cybersecurity disruptions of essential services in local communities across the country grows. Going after internet technologies that control communications and public safety agencies would be a new frontier for cyber attackers that federal agencies believe could be affiliated with Iran. Now you got to remember, I think it was Obama set up a whole new system, a new advanced system, and that's the one that they're all under now. I can't remember what it was called, but I had heard back then there'd be a lot easier to break into this system that they had instead of the individual systems in the counties. And that's exactly what looks like they're doing. Federal agencies are investigating cyber attacks targeting municipal water systems in a dozen states. Last month, the FBI, the Environmental Protection Agency, and cybersecurity and infrastructure security agencies all warned that cyber attackers remotely accessed online infrastructure for water and wastewater systems in at least 7 states. 7 states. I mean, that's scary, and I'm telling you, it ain't a guy in his garage, okay? It's not Russia. Pretty sure we know who it is. Governor Gavin Newsom's office, in a statement to the Times, said that there is no evidence that California water systems were among those targeted in the recent spate of attacks. However, the governor's office noted that state-by-state cybersecurity efforts are less effective than a coordinated federal response. So he just wants federales everywhere. Cyber threats do not stop a state's lines, and no state can defend against them alone. Yeah, and I bet if we really track it back, we'll find out it's our own people or a certain country overseas. They do like to use your water supply against you some way or another. Here we're going to get into this. SPR here stood at around 415 million barrels before the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran on February 28th. The U.S. government stocks will fall to around 243 million barrels when the release Trump ordered is completed. The SPR's operational capability is at risk due to aging infrastructure. According to the May report for the Governor Accountability Office, more than a quarter of its inventory was not available for drawdowns due to contamination of construction outages and cavern outages. Where all this money going? Why don't nobody maintain or fix anything, and why we've got it up and going here? It's wild. That implied that a minimum of 103 million barrels in the SPR today are not available for use, according to the July analysis by Rapid Energy. In other words, we've only got 200 million barrels in reserve. That's what they're saying if we can't get the other. This is like a 1 billion barrel reserve. The SPR's drawdown, distribution, and fill capabilities are currently limited and are at risk going forward due to long-standing issues with aging infrastructure compounded with online major construction intended to address them. The GAO warned in the report. 20 years ago, people were wanting to redo our electrical and redo all this crap they got laughed out of Congress and told that they didn't have the money for it. But wars and wars and more wars, man. When you do drawdown, then you accelerate the kind of degradation of the wells themselves and some of the equipment. It's like anything else. You use it a lot, you have to maintain it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It kind of sounds like maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. I don't know. I mean, yeah, because you have to maintain stuff. We're going to look at here. In '83, to build up all this oil reserves, this is when they built well, I think the SPR was in '73. The SPR, yeah, '73, '74 embargo. The U.S. realized that the interruption of foreign oil supplies could seriously damage the economy. Congress authorized the reserve in '75 with the goal of eventually storing up to 1 billion barrels. During the early '80s, Reagan's administration dramatically accelerated purchases of crude oil for the reserve. In '82, Reagan reported that the SPR contained about 288 million barrels, 178 billion, 61% of the total had been added during the administration. The administration had increased the acquisition rate to roughly 215,000 per day fiscal year 1982 compared with less than 77,000 barrels a day the previous 4 years. While '83 matters today, the reason you're probably hearing about '83 is the SPR's current level has fallen to that same place in '83. In June 2026, it was about 340 million barrels. Okay, so what they're going to do to try to rebuild this, and this is basically it, is it's already moving towards rebuilding it after a large withdrawal of 2022. What they do is they're buying crude oil when prices are favorable. Well, they're back up to, 80 now. I don't think they bought any. I don't think they bought any when it was down to 30, and I remember that day. It went all the way to 20 at one point. Use congressional funding to purchase all the oil of the SPR, so your taxpayers, more of your taxpayer money, plus the taxpayer money they've already got set in reserve. Take advantage of domestic production and favorable market conditions. I don't know why they're not just using our own domestic crude. We could just have it whenever we want it, and they could probably get a better deal because it's right here in the States. Refill the underground salt caverns along the Gulf Coast. Potentially change the target size or buying strategy so the government isn't forced to purchase oil at high prices. The key is price. Buying 200 plus million barrels at once would be extremely expensive, so the government had an incentive to spread purchases over time. Well, yeah, but it depends on how they're buying because they got to pay fees every time they buy. So it might be smarter to buy bigger and more because your fees might be less and you would probably get a better deal. But why the U.S. needs to refill. The SPR held more than 700 million barrels before the major 22 withdrawals and subsequently fell to roughly 340 million barrels, dramatically reducing the cushion available during a major supply reduction. A full refilled back towards 700 million barrels would mean adding hundreds of millions of barrels. If you'd like, I could say. Now it's already got damage and they got to repair it, so they're not even doing that. Maybe there'll be more on this story and whatnot. Maybe the press will hit on it and get a little more what they got planned. But when you got to repair it and you've never not maintained it and all that shit. I mean, what are you doing with our money, government? I mean, do I not need to ask? I mean, somebody's got to be accountable for all this shit. You know what I mean? Most of these politicians and stuff are just treasonous bastards. But anyway, I'm going to get off here. Appreciate you.